So, how does a trigger dissolve? How does that process happen, and how does that transform into something different? So, I'll describe the process that I've been going through for, it started about 5 weeks ago. I noticed that, despite all the work that I thought I had been doing around codependency and wanting other people to be different, for me to feel happy and me to feel free, I noticed in my most intimate relationship that something came up, and in that moment I noticed that it was me. It was a trigger within me. Up until that moment it had always been, well, yeah, but that person should be different. A person should change. Obviously, and it was around anger. I wasn't able to be with my boyfriend when he was going through something that was very difficult for him and that created anger within him. And the anger wasn't being projected out towards me, yet I was taking it personally on some level, and I didn't even realize it. So, we've been together for over 2 years, and this is the first moment that spike of adrenaline within my system and that need to escape or to change him became clear to me that was a trigger within me and that I could actually change it. And sometimes it happens that way where, despite all the information that we're hearing, or despite even how we're coaching other people, we don't actually realize what the triggers are that are going on inside of us, that have been going on for a really long time. So they can be, under the radar for a while. And the more present you are and the more you work through these, the deeper you can go. And so this trigger has been with me for a really long time. Sure, it came out of, my relationship with my parents and, feeling like I had done something wrong when somebody was angry, etc., whatever. It's not really important to get to the root of the multitude of beliefs that surround that emotional spike. But what was important for me in that moment was to realize that I was responsible for how I felt. And once I realized that, I noticed that this had come up in the work that I do. So I was doing a presentation to a group of people, and somebody else within that group had gotten really angry about something, not at me, and she was in a state of rage, and that rage was being expressed within the group, and it was being directed at me. It wasn't, she wasn't saying anything angrily about me in particular, but it was being directed in my direction, and I had a really hard time dealing with that. And I noticed that after that, I still held something in my body. There was something unprocessed in my body. And so I started looking at all the myriad of ways that this idea of, when somebody gets angry, it's something that I've done, it's some fault within me, was playing itself out in all of these different areas of my life. And I allowed myself to feel it. I allowed myself to be with it. I allowed myself to take a couple days that weren't super productive, where I could just allow the feeling to move through my body, to not resist it, to not try to push it away, to not even try to change the feeling of, blaming myself or feeling like I had done something wrong. Because when I first saw it, I knew it wasn't true. And it's something that I'd been thinking wasn't true for a really long time, and I didn't even think that I was believing that. It was, and so it's theoretically, I already knew that this wasn't true. So, trying to convince myself that it's not true when the trigger is like ripe in my system is not going to really be helpful. So, it took me about a week to be with that. And as I was with it, I really felt like it had been with me practically my whole life. It felt like a very deep release that I was going through. And then after that happened, I noticed that, and I hadn't done any work on belief systems or anything like that. My relationship with my boyfriend and those moments where he's going through something is completely different. I'm actually able to hold space and not be affected by whatever's going on, even when he does project it towards me, because I know it has nothing to do with me. And to be honest, I did not expect this to shift so quickly. You know, I've worked with a lot of these different kind of things coming into the system and processing them, but usually it takes kind of a while to really feel it, to allow it to process through. But in this case, the trigger was gone. It's been gone since 5 weeks ago. And I've come up against these same circumstances over and over again. And what's there instead is kind of like a surprise. Feels a little unfamiliar. Feels like a new aspect of myself that I've never been before at this level. It feels really good. It feels really powerful. It feels really free. It feels really open. It feels like, you know, I'm bulletproof. Like, you know, you can't get at me. It feels like that. And it feels very loving and very kind. And I'm able to access a much deeper spaciousness and kindness with others than I ever have before. And again, because even though I'd done a lot of work on that, there was still this thing clinging on, this very deep, heavy trigger that was clinging on. And whenever it came through, I remember before I became really aware of what it was, whenever it would come through, I wouldn't know what was at the root of it. I would ask myself, you know, why am I feeling this way? And I couldn't come up with a response that made any sense to me. It was just a feeling, a heavy, heavy feeling. So sometimes when you process through a trigger, you won't even know what you're processing. You won't even be consciously aware of, you know, maybe the incident where it happened. You won't be aware of the belief system surrounding it, but you can still very effectively allow your body to do the processing. Allow your state of presence to be the light that, you know, shatters the darkness and that opens yourself up to being something different and something new. So I hope this is really helpful for you on your journey. I hope it helps you to understand the process of releasing. And then one more thing I wanted to say, when you release it, something opens up. A new aspect of you now has the capacity to shine because there's energy that you didn't have access to before within your body. Your body has just released a whole lot of energy. So you'll get to know an even more intimate, deeper part of yourself that maybe you never had gotten to know before. I love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.